Good morning. It's Wednesday, November 27, the day before Thanksgiving. On Monday, I drove from here in Altoona to Atlantic, Iowa to hear Mayor Pete speak. My plan actually was to leave earlier and go to hear him in Creston, Iowa. I did leave on time, but I encountered a large crash on I-80 and had to abandon getting to Creston. The night before, I had driven north to Mason City, Iowa to hear Tom Steyer speak. I liked Mason City, as I liked Atlantic. These small Iowa towns tend to have a village square. They have old buildings. They're stately. As I drove by the venue, I saw a lot of people lined up outside, and on the corner was a Trump truck. When I arrived and went in the venue, I was allowed into the press area and had a good seat over against the wall. It's a good thing because the place was packed.
Of the United States of America, Pete Buttigieg.
Thank you, Frankie, for your fantastic work here organizing on the ground. Thank you, Jade, for channeling the spirit of TR at a time like this where we need to remember what it means to stand in the arena and work to get something done. I always begin by asking those I'm speaking with to visualize in as much detail as possible, as specifically as you can, a day that is coming in our future, one way or the other. And that is the day when the sun will come up over the United States and Donald Trump will no longer be in the Oval Office. I think we're all ready for that day. Can't come soon enough to put away the chaos and the corruption, to not wake up in the morning what's going on with the tweets, just put it all behind us. But I also think we need to prepare for the fact that that day will be a challenging one in the life of this country. Because what's going to happen is the sun will come up over the United States even more divided than we are today. Even more torn up over politics, even more polarized, exhausted from fighting, very much in need of being brought together. And something else will be true at the same time, which is that our country will still face major issues in need of real, bold, ambitious reform. And if you just put those things together, you understand what is going to be needed of the next president of the United States, which is the vision to bring us together to get something done on these big, tough issues, and a way to unify us in the process. I'm running to be that president who can pick up the pieces, gather us together, and make sure that we come out of that process of rising to meet our biggest challenges more unified and less divided than we were on the way in. That's what we have to do. And that means standing on the values that unite us as Americans. Values that bring us in a very specific and very progressive direction when we take them seriously. But we got to take them seriously. We got to take patriotism seriously. That means that it can't be reduced to the cheap nationalism of hugging the flag or telling some people they don't belong in this country. I'm talking about real patriotism, which begins with the awareness that our country is made of people. You can't hate a country you can't love a country if you hate half of the people in it. Protecting our country means protecting each other. That is why we have a responsibility that starts right here at home. It is in the name of national security that we must act to ensure, for the example, that the Second Amendment is never confused with a reason to do nothing at all to keep our kids safe from gun violence in this country. We've got to act. If we mean business about protecting our country, that means protecting it for future generations. That is why we have to act on climate change with the urgency of knowing that we are facing the global security challenge of our time. It's for them to be able to do that. We need to tap into these very values that they're using to pit us against each other. Think about how they use faith to tell some people they don't belong. I believe that our Constitution represents and defends people of every religion and no religion equally. That's how it works in the United States of America. As a believer, though, I can also offer to you a White House that believers can look at without scratching their heads and wondering, whatever happened to I was hungry and you fed me? I was a stranger and you welcomed me. People of faith have a choice, and God does not belong to a political party. Thinking about American values like freedom, but not the freedom that tells some of the folks in Congress that all you got to do is get rid of every rule and regulation and tax you've ever seen. I'm not that concerned with preserving Amazon.com's freedom to not have to pay any federal income taxes at all next year. I'm talking about a deeper freedom. I'm talking about our freedom to lead a good life. And that requires an awful lot of us. Sometimes it means getting government out of the way. That's why I believe government should get out of the business of telling women what their health care choices ought to be. Other times we expect the public sector to step up. That's why at the local level we expect strong and effective local government to deliver clean water and good roads and good schools. And those working in our local schools deserve the support of a Secretary of Education who actually believes in public education. And backs up our teachers. And there's the freedom that we don't have unless we have health care. But there's a way to deliver it that also honors Americans' freedom of choice. This is why I believe in the idea of Medicare for all who want it. We take a version of Medicare, we make it available for everybody who wants to have access to it. The difference is, I trust you to decide whether you want it. That's how we offer up freedom and coverage at the same time. And then there is the freedom of knowing that everyone can age and retire with dignity. And that's what I want to take a little time today to speak with you about. My sense of urgency about this issue, because I'm sure you may be wondering, why is the millennial candidate so eager to talk about retirement and aging? But I believe this issue is not being talked about nearly enough. Maybe we don't talk about it in politics for the same reason we don't always talk about it outside of politics. Maybe we don't want to think about it too much. Because it's so overwhelming, we're not sure what to do. I remember assuming that things would be fine for my own parents when it came to long-term care, until my father became ill, and we found ourselves sitting with a social worker, my mother and I, as the social worker patiently explained to her that the best option in the event he was going to need long-term care might be to just spend down everything she's ever had until she qualified for Medicaid. And I remember thinking, is that how we do things in the greatest country in the world? Is that the closest thing we have to a long-term care plan that covers everybody? And unfortunately, the answer is yes. And it sounds like a lot of folks here have had that same conversation with a loved one or about a loved one. And this is only going to become more acute in the years ahead. America is aging. Turns out everybody gets older. And around 2030, for the first time in U.S. history, more older adults will live in the United States than children. By 2050, nearly 1 out of 5 people right here in Iowa will be over 65. More and more Americans are becoming eligible for Social Security, even as this president, who, by the way, promised not that long ago that he would always preserve Social Security, then turned around and cut it in his budget. When you make a promise around Social Security, you ought to keep it. In 2020, so I'm not talking about the far-off flying cars kind of future, I'm talking about by next year, half of adults who reach 65 will at some point require long-term care. And by 2026, we are going to need 8 million more people working in care jobs than we have today. And yet, while we have seen this crisis coming, Washington has repeatedly failed to act. So, I may be the youngest candidate running, but I plan to avail myself of Social Security at some point. After all, just like the rest of us, we've all been paying into it. This is not a favor. It is a mutual agreement between each of us and the United States of America. And the time has come for a new approach to make sure that it's there when we need it. So I will usher in an era for older Americans that empowers everybody to age with dignity and independence and have the freedom to see those years as a time full of possibility. But we've got to act. How do we do it? First of all, we got to strengthen retirement. So we will ensure that the 22 million seniors on Medicare Advantage get the option to keep your plans, because I trust you to decide whether or not you want them. It means making sure that you can have that freedom of choice. It also means asking more fortunate Americans to pay their fair share. I propose that income above $250,000 be taxed at the same level to pay into Social Security. It's nothing against folks earning that much. They'll be fine. But we need that in order to shore up Social Security, because I want to make sure that it is there for future generations. And if we make that simple change, even as we increase the minimum benefit to make sure nobody's condemned to poverty, that Social Security will be there and the trust fund will be solvent at least into the 2050s, when I plan to be collecting those checks. Social Security is one of the most effective and successful programs in the history of the United States, which is why we must preserve it and make sure that benefits are never cut. But we also know that it's not everything that we need more. And we need to create more ways for people to save. Right now, 62 million Americans lack a workplace retirement account. And over a third of folks right here in Iowa have less than $5,000 saved or invested for retirement. And so we got to do better. And when I am president, we will. I am proposing a bold new option, a public option 401k that allows workers to supplement Social Security benefits if they choose. Once again, I trust you to decide if this is right for you. But we're going to make sure that there's a 2-to-1 employer match on contributions into this 401k, so that a typical worker in the United States, when they retire, would have over $500,000 in the bank to live from as they retire. And when we do that, everyone in this country will be better off. So I'm proposing a new program, a Long-Term Care America program that provides every senior who needs it $90 a day cash benefit to go towards the cost of long-term care in-home or in a facility, so that everyone knows that they got an option besides what that social worker told my mother and me about that day. For folks in Iowa, that would cut the average cost of care 39% for nursing facility services and 57% for assisted living services. And we also need to make sure that we get the private and public sectors working together and require quality at every turn. Because we often trust those we love most into the care of a facility. We deserve the peace of mind and confidence of knowing that our loved ones will be cared for, and our loved ones deserve that too. Which is why we will mandate that there be better oversight, including fully funding the Ombudsman program that allows complaints and issues to come to light, and improve access to mandate that Medicaid cover home and community-based services, because often when older people have a chance to age in place, in their communities, in their homes, the result is better for the patient and it's better for the bottom line. So we need to make sure that we are expanding programs like the Capable program, which provides a nurse, a home repair person, and an occupational therapist to aging Americans to make it easier to stay healthy and to age right at home. Now, the last very important area we got to work on concerns those who actually provide the care, who are undercompensated, underappreciated, and we don't have nearly enough of them, and the need's only going to grow. We can't solve this issue without paying attention to the caregiving professions. This is one of many, many reasons why we need a $15 minimum wage in the United States of America. It's why we got to create new work standards to support those who are in this field and to know that there's a career path ahead of it so that we can draw more people getting into this line of work to begin with. And it's why we need to create more ladders for advancement in this field. And yes, I believe that care workers, like all workers, deserve the right to form a union, negotiate for better wages and conditions, and be protected from labor. The reality is, a lot of care workers in this country aren't considered care workers because you do it for free. You do it because you need to. You do it because nobody else will. Well, as far as I'm concerned, that's still work. That deserves to be recognized. And it's why I will see to it that care work, caregiving for a loved one, counts towards Social Security so that it is recognized when it is your turn to retire. Bottom line here is that we can do a better job of ensuring that everyone can expect security and dignity in retirement and in the future. But we've got to act now. We have waited for way too long to do the right thing on issue after issue, and this is one. We can't wait 10 years, we can't wait 4 years, we got to act. This morning we had a roundtable in Montgomery County where one of the people speaking with us brought a stack of reports going back to 1990. And the end of that report from 1990 on long-term care said the time to act is now. Then there was one from the late 90s, said now is the time to do something. There was one from 2007 that said we've got to act now. Well, we actually have to make sure this time is different. And how we do that depends on all of us. It depends on the movement that we're building in the course of this campaign to address the need to draw every kind of American into this vision. It is why I am speaking not only to fellow progressives, not only to moderates, but also to a lot of what I like to call future former Republicans, who I meet an awful lot of these days. Knowing that we may not agree on everything, but we agree on the need to create a greater sense of belonging in this country, and we agree on the need to make sure that we do right by the generations that brought us into this world and by the generations to come. That is what this campaign is about. Rooted in a belief that doing the work will pay off and a sense of hope that it matters who's in office, that it matters who we send into those big white buildings to make decisions on our behalf, and that if we get it right, our everyday lives will get better. That is why I'm running for president. It is why I'm asking for you to caucus for me in February, and it is what I believe that we can deliver if we get this right. So thanks so much for the opportunity to share this vision with you, and let's have a conversation.
I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like the content, please consider subscribing. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you for watching.